Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, me. Welcome back, you. I am just dying to know what this book is about, what all the hubbub is about. What is all the chaos and general hullabaloo about? Lots of controversy over the new movie. But what we want to know is the literature. We want to know more about the literature. So I'm going to do just like a quick little Emily Bronte search here just to know. Ooh, it's so interesting. Like, this is a gorgeous painting of Emily Bronte, right? And then gorgeous. So different from the paintings. But then there's also this the many faces of Emily Bronte. She was born July 30th, 1818, which I do believe, I think this is in my brain now, is the year that Jane Austen did pass away from this earth. 1817. Okay, I'm gonna get it. July 18th, 1817. July 18th, 1870. Who's into numerology? Who can help out with that? Emily Bronte. Let's see. English writer, best known for her 1847 novel, Wuthering Heights. Poetry. She co-authored a book of poetry. Poetry. I do love poetry. With her sisters Charlotte and Anne, entitled Poems by Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell. Yorkshire. What's a Yorkshire accent? Can we find a Yorkshire accent? That I will not be able to do. So this is the Romantic period of literature. And wow, she was the fifth of six siblings. Did I remember that? She had like three sisters and three brothers. Is that right? Four of whom survived into adulthood. Her mother died when she was 3, leaving the children in care of their aunt Elizabeth Branwell. Apart from brief intervals at school, Emily was mostly taught at home by her father, Patrick Bronte, who was the curate of Haworth. I said Hawthorne. She was very close with her siblings, especially her younger sister Anne, and together they wrote little books and journals depicting imaginary worlds. She was described by her sister Charlotte as a solitary, strong-willed and non-conforming with a keen love of nature and animals. Ooh, I wonder if we'll get to see that in this book, nature and animals. Apart from a brief period at school, and another as a student and teacher in Brussels with her sister Charlotte, Emily spent most of her life at home in Haworth, helping the family's servant with chores, playing the piano, and teaching herself from books. Her work was originally published under the pen name Ellis Bell. It was not generally admired at the time, and many critics felt that the characters in Wuthering Heights were coarse and immoral. Ooh. In spite of this, the novel is now considered to be a classic of English literature. Emily Bronte died in 1848 at the age of 30 years old, a year after the novel's publication. Wow. I wonder, okay, I love to see early influences. They were encouraged by their father and aunt to develop their literary talents. That's cool. Girls were not allowed access to the public library, but Branwell borrowed books, which he shared with his sisters. Cute. And Patrick had a large personal library, to which he allowed his children access. Thus, Emily and her children had Aesop's Fables, Arabian Nights, still have to read, Walter Scott's Tales of a Grandfather, never heard of it, Blackwood's Magazine, cool. Illustration says, oh, a watercolor painting by Emily Bronte of her dog Keeper. Puppy dog. That's a really cute dog. In spite of his desire for his children to receive a comprehensive education, Patrick Bronte himself was cold and emotionally distant and exhibited a number of marked eccentricities, such as carrying a loaded gun at all times and imposing a number of idiosyncratic personal rules on the household. As Elizabeth Gaskell's biography of Charlotte depicts him as prone to violent rages, once cutting up a dress belonging to his wife because he felt it encouraged vanity, and forbidding his children to eat meat in case it made them too dependent on their physical comfort. Although Patrick himself denied this, and Gaskell's account is now generally considered to have been an exaggeration. He had retained an Irish accent, which the siblings shared as children, and this contributed to the perception that they were outsiders, never quite fitting into the Yorkshire community. Well, they had no friends in their little village, and they were invited to a party, showed no knowledge of the games played by their peers. Yikes. Left to their own devices, the siblings were unusually close and remained so, especially Emily and Anne, who were described by a family friend, Ellen Nussey, as being like twins. Lots of juvenilia, adulthood, death. I think she died of tuberculosis, huh? Yeah, she died of tuberculosis. Following a long descent into alcoholism and drug addiction. Oh, wait. Emily's brother probably died of tuberculosis, but did, okay. At his funeral, a week later, Emily caught a severe cold that quickly developed into inflammation of the lungs and may have accelerated an existing condition such as tuberculosis. Yes. It has been suggested that Emily's health had been weakened by insanitary conditions at home, where water was contaminated by runoff from the church's graveyard. We're so lucky. Though her condition worsened steadily, Emily rejected medical help, saying she would have no poisoning doctor near her. December 19th, Charlotte, fearing her sister, wrote, "She grows daily weaker. The physician's opinion was expressed too obscurely to be of use. He sent some medicine, which she would not take. Moments so dark as these I have never known. I pray for God's support to us all." She died the same day, blah, 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 blah. Emily died on the sofa in the living room at the parsonage, which she had adopted as the bed. Wow. Well, legacy. Let's read Wikipedia's legacy, but we'll dive deeper into Emily Bronte as we go along, I'm certain. Although Emily's work was not widely appreciated at the time of its publication, I'm sure, Wuthering Heights has subsequently become an English literary classic and is described by John Sutherland, I think I like him, longman companion to Victorian fiction, as the 20th century's favorite 19th century novel. In 2007, it topped a Guardian poll of nation's favorite love stories. Emily's poems, too, have reached a global audience. The opening line of "No coward soul is mine" is popular on mugs. No coward soul is mine. Ooh. And keyrings and even tattoos. Ooh. Authors who have been inspired by Emily Bronte include Anne Rice, love her, Sylvia Plath, great, Jacqueline Wilson, don't know, Joanne Harris, couldn't tell you, Margaret Atwood, wonderful, Kate Mosse, Dorothy Coomson. There's a Bronte Society in 2018 to celebrate Emily Bronte's bicentenary year. Bicentenary? Wow. The Bureau Press published a collection of short stories entitled "I Am Heathcliff," edited by Kate Mosse, and featuring stories by Leila Abuela, and a bunch of other people. She's a hit. I know Tom Hardy was in actors who have played Heathcliff include Ralph Fiennes, Laurence Olivier, and Tom Hardy. Wow. And now Jacob Elordi. not receiving mixed reviews, I'd say that. Cool. July 30th, Thornton, United Kingdom. We could have a little tuberculosis July 30th fun party. All three sisters reviewed as odd, but Emily in particular. It's in the name, I think. Reportedly hiding under tables and behind doors as a child, avoiding social interaction, her reservedness continued with her into adulthood, and she was known to remain silent in public, even when directly spoken to. That's great. I do love the cover of this new Wuthering Heights, though. I mean, it's such a classic. That is such a classic looking, like, rom-com book cover. And the one that Tom Hardy did too, which is not in here. Where is it? Tom Hardy, Wuthering Heights. I haven't seen either of them because I think the covers of the films have made me not want to see them because I just haven't been into that stuff. But, oh my God, with Tom Hardy, this cover. I think they're married now, huh? Those two, the Tom Hardy and that woman, and they're both in Peaky Blinders. All right, should we just wrap into this book? Did I get a book? I got it a long time ago. Biographical Notice of Ellis and Acton Bell. Ooh, which I have not read this yet. Editor's preface to the new edition of Wuthering Heights. Haven't read that yet either, but I will read them and get back to you. Should we just jump right in? Volume 1, Chapter 1. Ooh. This might be the least prepared. I think have known more about all of the other books. I don't know a thing about it, except that it is perceived to be a rom-com, but it's like a romantic era, but also I thought it was more like gothic-y because of Jane Eyre, but maybe it's not. We'll have to see. I know nothing. Ooh. 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbour that I shall be troubled with. I haven't read in a British accent in a long time. Fun. This is certainly a beautiful country. In all England, I do believe that I could have fixed on a situation so completely removed from the stir of society. A perfect misanthropist's heaven. And Mr. Heathcliff and I are such a suitable pair to divide the desolation between us. A capital fellow. He little imagined how my heart warmed towards him when I beheld his black eyes withdraw so suspiciously under their brows as I rode up, and when his fingers sheltered themselves with a jealous resolution still further in his waistcoat as I announced my name. Mr. Heathcliff, I said. A nod was the answer. Mr. Lockwood, your new tenant, sir. I do myself the honour of calling as soon as possible after my arrival to express the hope that I have not inconvenienced you by my perseverance in soliciting the occupation of Thrushcross Grange. I had yesterday. You had some thoughts? Thrushcross Grange is my own, sir, he interpreted, wincing. I should not allow any one to inconvenience me if I could hinder it. Walk in. This must not be a woman speaking. This is Mr. Lockwood, whoever that is. The walk-in was uttered with closed teeth and expressed the sentiment, go to the deuce. This is going to be fun already, I can tell. Go to the deuce. Even the gate over which he leant manifested no sympathizing movement to the words, and I think that circumstance determined me to accept the invitation. I felt interested in a man who seemed more exaggeratedly reserved than myself. When he saw my horse's breast fairly pushing the barrier, he did pull out his hand to unchain it, and then sullenly preceded me up the causeway, calling as we entered the court, Joseph, take Mr. Lockwood's horse and bring up some wine. Here we have the whole establishment of domestics, I suppose, was the reflection suggested by his compound order. No wonder the grass grows up between the flags, and cattle are the only hedge cutters. Joseph was an elderly, nay, an old man, very old perhaps, though hale and sinewy. The Lord help us, he soliloquized in an undertone of peevish displeasure, while relieving me of my horse, looking meantime in my face so sourly that I charitably conjectured he must have need of divine aid to digest his dinner, and his pious ejaculation had no reference to my unexpected advent. Wuthering Heights is the name of Mr. Heathcliff's dwelling, Wuthering being a significant provincial adjective, descriptive of the atmospheric tumult to which its situation is exposed in stormy weather. Wuthering. Pure brace ventilation they must have up there at all times indeed. One may guess the power of the north wind blowing over the edge by the excessive slant of a few stunted firs at the end of the house. She uses a semicolon a lot. No. Just a colon. She says pure bracing ventilation they must have up there at all times indeed. Colon. One may guess the power of the north wind blowing over the edge by the excessive slant of a few stunted firs at the end of the house, semicolon. And by a range of gaunt thorns all stretching their limbs one way, as if craving alms of the sun. Craving alms of the sun. Haply the architect had foresight to build it strong, colon. The narrow windows are deeply set in the wall, and the corners defended with large jutting stones. That's the way in which the architect built it strong. Okay. This is a new use of the actual colon punctuation that I've not seen yet. Lots of semicolons, but this is the first. Can we do that real quick? Emily Bronte's use of the colon? Emily Bronte's use of the colon. Often reflects the intense, tumultuous, and visceral nature of her characters' inner worlds and dialogue that rather than just standard Victorian grammatical conventions. Her syntax frequently mirrors the raw, passionate, and sometimes erratic flow of thought, enhancing the novel's dramatic and often gothic tone. Okay. The colon is often employed to create a pause for emphasis, slowing the reader down before delivering a powerful emotional statement or a crucial dramatic revelation. Similar to her sister Charlotte's style, but often in a more intense, brooding manner. Ooh, the colon! Emily uses punctuation to connect closely related, often conflicting ideas within a single sentence, reflecting the character's passionate and sometimes erratic thoughts. While some interpretations focus on the broader Victorian usage, the specific, often relentless pace of the punctuation in Wuthering Heights serves to heighten the dramatic tension. Ooh. The punctuation helps to convey the distinct, often raw voices of her characters, enhancing the dramatic, intense dialogue between Heathcliff and Catherine. Okay. While some discussion mistakenly blends the styles of Emily and Charlotte Bronte, with the latter often being more closely associated with confidential colons to engage the reader, the general consensus is that both sisters use punctuation to create a deeply intimate, albeit intense, reading experience, often reflecting the dramatic and psychological depth of their narratives. Wow. A colon is used to give emphasis, present dialogue, introduce lists or texts, and clarify composition titles. I mean, I didn't realize that the colon was to give emphasis. We learn something new every day. That's great. I had no idea. And this colon was about the architecture. Before passing the threshold, I paused to admire a quantity of grotesque carvings lavished over the front, and especially about the principal door, above which, among a wilderness of crumbling griffins and shameless little boys, I detected the date 1500 and the name Hareton Earnshaw. I would have made a few comments and requested a short history of the place from the surly owner, but his attitude at the door appeared to demand my speedy entrance or complete departure, and I had no desire to aggravate his impatience previous to inspecting the penetralium. The penetralium? Inspecting the penetralium. Please hold. What is a penetralium? Penetralium refers to the innermost, hidden, or most secret part of a building, temple, or metaphorically a person's mind or soul. Whoa. His attitude at the door appeared to demand my speedy entrance or complete departure, and I had no desire to aggravate his impatience previous to inspecting the penetralium. Oh. Inner sanctum or place of deep privacy. Do you have a penetralium in your house? The term is often used to describe a sacred, restricted, or mysterious intimate space derived from the Latin penetrare, to penetrate. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. Deep. One step brought us into the family sitting room without any introductory lobby or passage. They call it here the house, preeminently. It's just, we all have just houses now, and they're like, what? There's no lobby or a passage? What was that called? I learned it in, I'll have to reread every book I've already read to remember. What was that word that they used in Pride and Prejudice of the entryway room? And it was kind of a weird word. Okay, I'll coming back. It includes kitchen and parlor generally, but I believe at Wuthering Heights the kitchen is forced to retreat altogether into another quarter. At least I distinguished a chatter of tongues and a clatter of culinary utensils deep within. Semicolon. And I observed no signs of roasting, boiling, or baking about the huge fireplace, semicolon, nor any glitter of copper saucepans and tin colanders on the walls. One end, indeed, reflected splendidly both light and heat from ranks of immense pewter dishes, interspersed with silver jugs and tankards, towering row after row in a vast oak dresser to the very roof. Dresser. The latter had never been underdrawn. Its entire anatomy lay bare to an inquiring eye, except where a frame of wood laden with oat cakes and clusters of legs of beef, mutton, and ham concealed it. That's funny that we've just learned that she was never allowed to eat meat, allegedly. And her book so far is like beef and mutton and ham. Above the chimney was sundry villainous old guns, and a couple of horse pistols, and, by way of ornament, 3 gaudily painted canisters disposed along its ledge. The floor was of smooth white stone, the chairs high-backed, primitive structures, painted green, 1 or 2 heavy black ones lurking in the shade. In an arch under the dresser reposed a huge liver-coloured bitch pointer surrounded by a swarm of squealing puppies, and other dogs haunted other recesses. We're getting a great picture painted of this house. The apartment and furniture would have been nothing extraordinary, as belonging to a homely northern farmer with a stubborn countenance and stalwart limbs set out to advantage in knee breeches and gaiters. Breeches? Knee breeches. Such an individual seated in his armchair, his mug of ale frothing on the round table before him, is to be seen in any circuit of 5 or 6 miles among these hills, if you go at the right time, after dinner. But Mr. Heathcliff forms a singular contrast to his abode and style of living. He is a dark-skinned gypsy in aspect. In dress and manners a gentleman, that is, as much a gentleman as many a country squire, rather slovenly, perhaps, yet not looking amiss with his negligence, because he has an erect and handsome figure, and rather morose. Possibly some people might suspect him of a degree of underbred pride. Underbred. I have a sympathetic chord within that tells me it is nothing of the sort. I know by instinct his reserve springs from an aversion to showy display of feelings, to manifestations of mutual kindliness. He'll love and hate equally under cover, and esteem it a species of impertinence to be loved or hated again. No, I'm running on too fast. I bestow my own attributes over liberally on him. Mr. Heathcliff may have entirely dissimilar reasons for keeping his hand out of the way when he meets a would-be acquaintance to those which actuate me. Let me hope my constitution is almost peculiar. My dear mother used to say I should never have a comfortable home, and only last summer I proved myself perfectly unworthy of one. I think I'm going to stop there. This is a long... No, I'm not going to stop there. Ooh, we're going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. Joseph, take Mr. Lockwood's horse and bring him up some wine. Wait. Unworthy of one. Yes. They already brought up the wine and took care of the horse. Now we're, Mr. What's his name? Mr. Lockwood. That's what I was going to say. While enjoying a month of fine weather at the sea-coast, I was thrown into the company of a most fascinating creature, a real goddess in my eyes, as long as she took no notice of me. I never told my love vocally. Still, if looks have language, the merest idiot might have guessed I was over head and ears. She understood me at last, and looked a return. The sweetest of all imaginable looks. And what did I do? I confess it with shame. Shrunk icily into myself like a snail at every glance, retired colder and farther, till finally the poor innocent was led to doubt her own senses, and overwhelmed with confusion at her supposed mistake, persuaded her mamma to decamp. By this curious turn of disposition I have gained the reputation of deliberate heartlessness, how undeserved I alone can appreciate. I took a seat at the end of the hearthstone, opposite that towards which my landlord advanced, and filled up an interval of silence by attempt to caress the canine mother, who had left her nursery and was seeking wolfishly to the back of my legs, her lip curled up and her white teeth watering for a snatch. My caress provoked a long, guttural gnarl. "You'd better let the dog alone," growled Mr. Heathcliff, in unison, checking fiercer demonstrations with a punch of his food. "She's not accustomed to being spoiled, not kept for a pet." Oh. Then, striding to a side door, he shouted again, "Joseph!" Joseph mumbled indistinctly in the depths of the cellar, but gave no intimation of ascending. So his master dived down to him, leaving him vis-a-vis the ruffianly bitch. Leaving me vis-a-vis the ruffianly bitch, and a pair of grim, shaggy sheepdogs who shared with her a jealousy guardianship over my movements. Not anxious to come in contact with their fangs, I sat still, but imagining they would scarcely understand tacit insults, I unfortunately indulged in winking and making faces at the trio, and some of my physiognomy so irritated Madame that she suddenly broke into a fury and leapt on my knees. I flung her back and hastened to interpose the table between us. This proceeding aroused the whole hive. Half a dozen four-footed fiends of various size and ages issued from hidden dens to the common centre. I felt my heels and coat laps peculiar subjects of assault, and parrying off the larger combatants as effectually as I could with the poker, I was constrained to demand aloud assistance from some of the household in re-establishing peace. Mr. Heathcliff and his man climbed the cellar steps with vexatious phlegm. I don't think they moved 1 second faster than usual, though the hearth was an absolute tempest of whirring and yelping. Happily, an inhabitant of the kitchen made more dispatch. A lusty dame with tucked-up gown, bare arms, and fire-flushed cheeks rushed into the midst of us, flourishing a frying-pan, and used the weapon and her tongue to such purpose that the storm subsided magically, and she only remained heaving like a sea after a high wind when her master entered on the scene. "What the devil is the matter?" he asked, eyeing me in a manner that I could ill endure after inhospitable treatment. "What the devil indeed?" I muttered. "The herd of possessed swine could have no worse spirits than those animals of yours, sir. You might as well leave a stranger with a brood of tigers." "They won't meddle with persons who touch nothing," he remarked, putting the bottle before me and restoring the displaced table. "The dogs do right to be vigilant. Take a glass of wine." "No, thank you. Not bitten, are you?" "If I had been, I would have set my signet on the biter." Signet? Heathcliff's countenance relaxed into a grin. Come, he said. "You are flurried, Mr. Lockwood. Here, take a little wine. Guests are so increasingly rare in this house that I and my dogs, I am willing to own, hardly know how to receive them. Your health, sir." I bowed and returned the pledge, beginning to perceive that it would be foolish to sit sulking for the misbehaviour of a pack of curs. Besides, I felt loath to yield the fellow further amusement at my expense, since his humour took that turn. He, probably swayed by prudential consideration of the folly of offending a good tenant, relaxed a little in the laconic style of chipping off his pronouns and auxiliary verbs, and introduced what he supposed would be a subject of interest to me, a discourse on the advantages and disadvantages of my present place of retirement. I found him very intelligent on the topics we touched, and before I went home I was encouraged so far as to volunteer another visit tomorrow. He evidently wished no repetition of my intrusion. I shall go, notwithstanding. It is astonishing how sociable I feel myself compared with him. I was thinking this was going to be like from the perspective of a woman, but it's Mr. Lockwood, and who is that? And I don't know. And what is the woman's name in this book? I don't know either. I know Heathcliff, and that's a person's last name, and that's all I know. So wow, lots we already learned. What a beautiful descriptive. These books are always so very descriptive of like the wood and like the hearth, all the cool descriptive adjectives. I'm excited to read through this biographical notice and the preface, and we'll see you next time for chapter 2 of this incredible book, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, read to you by Emily Monday at Emily's Reading Corner. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy reading to you all, and ta-ta!